Good afternoon. My name's Michael, and tonight I'd like to talk to you about some of the cultural differences we saw in Swaziland, Africa. Recently, my wife and I had the opportunity to travel to Swaziland. Swaziland is a small kingdom, meaning that it is ruled by a king. It's about 3 hours drive from Johannesburg, South Africa. What we would consider to be substandard living condition is the normal way of life over there. In the U.S., we don't have to worry about, for the most part, housing, food, transportation, or medical care. All conditions are worse over there than they are in America. To give you a little back history, a few months back, my wife's friend Charlie called her up and asked her to come over and help him in the country implement a electronic or medical records, or get their medical records onto an electronic format. After the details were worked out, we were on our way. My wife went over there to do some consulting for him, and I got to go along for the ride. Most of the country, the reason they were putting those medical records into electronic format is because 30% of the country has HIV or AIDS, and there is a lot of TB over there, and they wanted to be able to track the effectiveness of the care they were getting. So after the details were worked out, like I said, we were on our way and headed over there. What Americans would think of as below poverty living is a normal way of life for them. People living outside of the city live in what they call homesteads. The homesteads consist of extended family members that live in small one-room buildings, houses. Most of the time there's no electricity. If there is, it's unreliable and goes out quite a bit. There is no running water in the houses. The most they will have is a spigot like you would use in for a garden hose outside of their house. Plumbing, non-existent, like I say, in the houses. Their bathrooms are pit latrines, or what we here in America call outhouses. A lot of the rural schools also use outhouses. We had the opportunity to spend an afternoon with one of these families. They invited us in. They gave us a traditional meal that consisted of chicken that was boiled in a pot. The broth, they called it soup. It was basically the chicken broth. Pop, which is made of maize, and the best way to describe it, it is a very clumpy cream of wheat. No flavor really to it. And then they had pumpkin, squash, mashed up pumpkin. They had pumpkin leaf with ground peanuts that looked like spinach, or cream spinach, which was actually really good. Cabbage, avocado, and papaya. Of the dinner, or of the food they gave us, the only thing that I really didn't care for was the papaya, and that they didn't make. Otherwise, their food was really good. You ate with your fingers, because that's the way they ate. During dinner, they talked about their lives. Most of them knew of the United States and asked us about, or questions about it and questions about us, and we really had a good time. They said they were subsistent farmers, and that's when most of the rural people live there. Subsistent meaning that they eat what they grow. Most of their diet consists of maize, which is a type of corn, vegetables, and chicken is their primary meat. Any extra they have, they sell, and they use the little bit of money they get from it to buy their clothes or whatever else they need, and they can't produce themselves. Transportation over there for most of the rural people is by foot. They can't afford to buy a car and maintain it, so they walk wherever they go. Public transportation is limited to the cities and the major highways in between those cities. There are bus stops along the way that people catch the bus, but most of them don't have the money to do it, so they walk wherever they go. We talked to one of the principals in a rural school. He said some of those kids walk up to 15 kilometers one way just to get to school. because of that, most people don't leave or have never left the area where they grew up in. So these valleys, the whole country is mountainous, and a lot of people live in the valley and grew up in the valley and have never left the valleys. Healthcare in the country is poor. The clinics are run down. There's long lines, and they stand in those long lines to receive minimal care. A lot of people get there at 7 o'clock in the morning. They end up waiting for 4 or 5 hours just to get that, substandard minimal care that is offered. Seeing the way people live and cope with the world around them gave me a better appreciation for what we have here and really how good we do have it. The fact that people live like this and can be so upbeat and friendly was amazing to me. We never once ran into somebody who wasn't friendly, smiling, and once you got to know them, really talk to them. After seeing that, my feeling is over here in America we have nothing to complain about. I have now a newfound appreciation for what I have. And I thank God that I was born here and I have the opportunity to live here where I don't have to worry about food, housing, transportation, or most of all medical care. We are truly blessed over here. We just returned a week ago from this trip, and every day we were over there, we saw more examples of the way things are in the world over there. It was interesting to witness these people and watch how they live and how they handled what they had and how their lives were. And they did it with smiles on their face. That was the most incredible part of it and what really got me. It's been this way for generations. The housing, the sanitation, the healthcare, and the list can go on. They either seem to be content with it or they just have figured out that there's no way to change it. It was truly an eye-opening experience, and I left, like I said, with a better appreciation for what we have and, our way of living. So, thank you, everybody.